When we talk about renewing the mind, it's not about fixing something broken. It's about recognizing that our thoughts, our stories, and our beliefs shape the way we see the world and ourselves. Every single one of us carries a narrative. Some of those narratives were written for us by our families, by society, by experiences that left a mark. And some of those narratives we've written ourselves out of fear, shame, or simply the desire to protect our hearts. Vulnerability often gets a bad rap. Many of us are conditioned to see it as a weakness, something to be avoided or hidden away. We grow up believing that to be vulnerable is to expose ourselves to judgment, failure, or rejection. It's no wonder that so many of us armor up, building walls around our hearts and minds in an attempt to protect ourselves from being hurt. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if vulnerability isn't our greatest weakness, but our greatest strength? To embrace vulnerability is to embrace the truth of our humanity. It's acknowledging that life is uncertain, that we don't have all the answers, and that it's okay not to. Vulnerability is the space where courage is born. It's in those moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty that we have the opportunity to choose courage over comfort. Because let's be honest, being vulnerable is anything but comfortable. It means showing up fully, even when the outcome is uncertain. Think about the moments in your life that have required the most courage. Was it the first time you spoke in front of a crowd? Admitting you made a mistake? Asking for help when you felt like you should have had it all together? Those moments were vulnerable. And yet they were also the moments that brought growth, connection, and transformation. When we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves up to possibility. We give ourselves permission to be seen and heard for who we truly are, not who we think we're supposed to be. This authenticity is magnetic. It draws people to us, deepens our relationships, and fosters trust. People aren't inspired by perfection, they're inspired by honesty, by stories of resilience, and by the willingness to stand in our truth. But let's be clear, embracing vulnerability doesn't mean spilling your deepest secrets to everyone you meet. It's about discernment and intention. It's about choosing to show up in ways that align with your values, even when it's hard. Vulnerability might look like sharing your ideas at work, even if you're not sure they'll be accepted. It might mean apologizing to a friend when you've hurt them, admitting you're scared about a new chapter in your life, or asking for feedback on a project you've poured your heart into. Yes, vulnerability is risky, but it's also the birthplace of connection, creativity, and growth. Without vulnerability, we stay stuck in the safety of what we know. We miss out on the chance to learn, to innovate, and to truly connect with others. So what does it mean to embrace vulnerability as a strength? It means leaning into the discomfort, trusting that it's through those uncomfortable moments that we grow. It means recognizing that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act despite it. And most importantly, it means remembering that you are enough, just as you are, and that your willingness to show up flaws, fears, and all is what makes you truly powerful. Gratitude and self-awareness are like two sides of the same coin. Together, they form a powerful practice that can transform how we experience life, shape our relationships, and empower us to take control of our inner narrative. These two habits are not just ideas to ponder, but essential tools to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Gratitude is not simply saying thank you when something good happens. It's a mindset, a lens through which we view the world. It's about noticing the small, often overlooked moments of beauty and joy, even in the midst of chaos or hardship. Gratitude asks us to pause, reflect, and appreciate what is good right here and now. And the amazing thing, science backs it up. Studies show that practicing gratitude rewires our brains, helping us to focus more on the positive, reduce stress, and build resilience. Cultivating gratitude daily doesn't mean we ignore the challenges or pretend life is perfect. It's about acknowledging those challenges while also choosing to focus on the things that bring light into our lives. Start small, keep a journal where you write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. They don't have to be monumental: a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or even the breath that keeps you going. Over time, this practice trains your mind to see abundance instead of lack. But gratitude alone isn't enough. Self-awareness is the other key piece of the puzzle. To truly renew your mind, you have to know it. Self-awareness means understanding your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It's about recognizing the patterns that shape your life, both the ones that serve you and the ones that hold you back. Becoming self-aware isn't always comfortable. It requires honesty and a willingness to look at yourself without judgment. It's about asking the hard questions. What are the stories I'm telling myself about who I am? Where do these beliefs come from? And most importantly, are they true? When we cultivate self-awareness, we take responsibility for our thoughts and actions. We stop living on autopilot and start making intentional choices. Self-awareness also strengthens our practice of gratitude. When we know ourselves deeply, we can better appreciate the things that bring us joy, the relationships that nurture us, and the growth we've experienced. It's a cycle. The more aware we are, the more gratitude we feel, and the more gratitude we feel, the more aware we become. To make this a daily practice, build small rituals into your routine. Spend a few moments in the morning reflecting on your intentions for the day. Pause before bed to review what went well and what you learned. Meditate, journal, or simply take a walk and notice how you feel. When gratitude and self-awareness become habits, they act as a compass, guiding you back to what matters most. Together, they remind you that even on the hardest days, there is something to be thankful for, and even in the most challenging times, you have the power to grow and thrive. We all have stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of. Some of these narratives empower us. They remind us of our strength, our resilience, and our ability to overcome challenges. But others hold us back. They whisper doubts into our ears, convincing us that we're not good enough, not smart enough, or not capable of achieving what we dream about. These limiting narratives can become so deeply ingrained that we mistake them for truth. The good news, those stories aren't set in stone. They can be rewritten. Challenging the narratives that limit your potential is about questioning the beliefs that no longer serve you and replacing them with ones that reflect your true worth and abilities. The first step is awareness. Ask yourself, what are the stories I've been telling myself? Maybe it's, I'm not good at relationships, I'll never be successful, or I'm too old or too young to try something new. These stories might have roots in past experiences, times when you failed, felt rejected, or were told by someone else that you weren't enough. But just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it defines your future. Once you've identified these narratives, it's time to question them. Where did this story come from? Is it based on fact, or is it a belief I've adopted without evidence? What would happen if I let go of this belief? Often, when we take a closer look, we realize that these stories are built on shaky foundations. They're assumptions, not truths. Rewriting the narrative starts with reframing. Instead of telling yourself, I'm not good at relationships, try saying, I'm learning how to build healthy and meaningful connections. Instead of, I'll never be successful, say, I'm taking steps every day to define and achieve my own version of success. Words matter, and the way we speak to ourselves shapes our reality. It's important to pair this mental work with action. Changing the story requires stepping out of your comfort zone and proving to yourself that a new narrative is possible. If you believe you're too old to try something new, take that class, learn that skill, or start that project you've been dreaming about. Each small action builds evidence for your new story. This process isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and courage. There will be moments when the old narratives creep back in, moments when you doubt yourself. That's normal. Growth is rarely a straight path. The key is to stay committed to the work, to remind yourself that you have the power to choose the story you live by. When you challenge the narratives that limit your potential, you open the door to possibility. You give yourself permission to grow, to try, and to fail, knowing that failure is just another chapter in the story of your resilience. You reclaim your power to define your life, not by the fears of your past, but by the hopes of your future. In our journey to grow and transform, one truth remains constant: we cannot do it alone. Connection is the lifeblood of human experience, the foundation that supports our courage and the spark that ignites meaningful change. Focusing on connection and embracing courage are essential steps in renewing our minds and stepping into our full potential. At its core, connection is about being seen, heard, and valued for who we truly are. It's about building relationships that inspire and uplift us, relationships where we feel safe enough to be vulnerable. But connection isn't just about being surrounded by people. It's about cultivating meaningful interactions. It's about quality, not quantity. True connection happens when we allow ourselves to show up authentically, letting others see the real us, not the curated, polished version we think the world wants to see. Why is connection so powerful? Because it reminds us that we're not alone. When we share our fears, struggles, and dreams with others, we create space for empathy, understanding, and support. We begin to see that our challenges are not unique, that others have walked similar paths and found their way forward. This shared humanity fosters the courage to take risks, to face uncertainty, and to pursue transformation despite the fear of failure. But connection isn't always easy. It requires effort, vulnerability, and intention. In today's fast-paced digital world, it's easy to feel isolated, even when we're constantly connected online. To foster true connection, we need to be present, but put down the phone. Look people in the eye. Listen with the intent to understand, not just to respond. Be curious about others' experiences and open to sharing your own. As we build connections, we also build courage. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means choosing to act despite it. It's the willingness to step into the unknown, take risks, and embrace the possibility of failure. Courage is what propels us forward when the path feels uncertain, and it's often born out of the encouragement and support of others. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most brave. Were you standing alone, or were you surrounded by people who believed in you? Connection fuels courage, and courage, in turn, deepens connection. When we take risks and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same. This creates a ripple effect, inspiring transformation not just in ourselves but in those around us. To focus on connection and courage is to embrace the power of relationships and the strength that comes from community. It's about being intentional in the way we show up for others and for ourselves. It's about recognizing that transformation isn't a solo journey, it's a shared one. So reach out. Build bridges where there are gaps. Be brave enough to let others in and courageous enough to show up for them. Because when we connect and choose courage, we not only transform our minds, but also create a world where growth, resilience, and love thrive. Renewing your mind is not a one-time event, it's a continuous journey of growth, courage, and intention. It begins with embracing vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a profound strength that allows us to connect, grow, and transform. It thrives through gratitude and self-awareness, habits that ground us in the present and open us to possibility. It requires us to challenge the limiting narratives that hold us back and to rewrite them with courage and purpose. And most importantly, it flourishes through connection, the relationships and communities that support us, inspire us, and remind us of our worth. The secret to renewing your mind lies in your willingness to show up for yourself and for others. It's in the small, consistent choices you make to let go of fear, lean into gratitude, and take bold steps toward the life you envision. It's in your ability to see setbacks as opportunities, vulnerability as power, and connection as fuel for transformation. You have the power to rewrite your story, to create a narrative that reflects your resilience, strength, and infinite potential. The journey won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Because in renewing your mind, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your life. So step forward with courage. Embrace the unknown. Trust that every small act of vulnerability, gratitude, and connection is leading you closer to the person you are meant to become. The pen is in your hands and the next chapter is yours to write.